Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Pleasure to welcome back to the program Alex Pareene, contributing editor at the New Republic, co-host of the podcast, The Politics of Everything. Alex, good to see you.
Good to see you. Great to be here.
Hey,
you're actually looking very healthy.
You sound so surprised, Sam.
I know.
Wow.
Like, sometimes, there's something, I don't know.
Well, you just asked me if I watched the Republican debate last night, and I didn't. And maybe
it
that's
wasn't last night.
So exactly. There you go.
There you go.
So there you go. So it might just be an indication that I'm living a healthier lifestyle.
There you Well, that's true, actually. It's good to remember you coming in for a debate or two.
Yeah.
And that was definitely not good for you, healthy-wise. I have to say that we all overindulge during these debates. It's really the only way to get through it. Yeah. But with that said, you didn't watch the debate, but I'm sure you've seen how earth-shattering the implications of that debate have been on the body politic afterwards. It's completely upended the race.
Yeah, that's right. We're living, there's a before and after the debate political universe, and we're living after it right now.
After the pivot.
Well, that's the thing, is that what you missed was News Nation introducing it as the pivotal fourth debate. And we should say that apparently there's now going to be 2 more debates.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least that have been announced. You probably did not hear that because they seem like completely irrelevant.
No, I know.
They must be, there must be enough ratings that some of these outlets are interested in doing it.
It's kind of like how they relaunch the USFL every few years. They're like,
exactly.
It's not going to get NFL numbers, but we got to put it's football. People are going to turn it on. The biggest gamblers and freaks will turn it on.
Bingo, nailed it. And but what I find fascinating about the debates is that you have 4 people up there, none of whom, if Donald Trump passed away tomorrow, or was jailed, and then passed away, or vice versa. I mean, it doesn't matter how you sequence it. None of these people are going to be the nominee. They have all proven one thing, it seems, during these debates, that they can't be the nominee. Yeah. There's nothing that says that, I would imagine, within the context of the Republican bylaws, that they can't just show up at the convention and get nominated.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's it is. You do wonder, like, I don't know. I mean, you don't wonder why these 4 are doing it, but I think you're totally right. Like, they're not, there's no path. So I don't really know I don't exactly know what the purpose of the exercise is.
Well, it's easy to understand. From my perspective, I think it's pretty easy. Like, Ron DeSantis just made a huge miscalculation.
Right. Yeah.
And he has no political instincts, and he realizes now he should have waited. Maybe he thought that he couldn't afford to wait until 2028.
Yep.
And then Chris Christie is just looking for some type of commentating job.
Yep.
Vivek he's like, why not?
Yeah.
He has $700, $800, $900 million. If he want, he's a young man, and it opens some doors for him, I guess, in some ways. It sounds like he's having fun. Yeah. And then Nikki Haley, I think, thinks that she has a future in the Republican Party, and apparently so don't the Koch network.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, and she's been positioned as that for years now, as a future star of the GOP. But if you get the Kochs behind you, get the Koch money behind you, that can go a long way. But I think that there's not a lot of sort of genuine grassroots enthusiasm exactly behind that.
You know what gets in the way a little bit for her is like the whole woman thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the whole woman thing, and I do think to some extent, in the U.S., like, it could be the case, as it has been elsewhere, like in the UK, that like our first our first female head of state will be a psycho right winger for that reason. Like I actually can conceive of that being the case for similar reasons why it happened with Thatcher. But I think at the same time, you're right. In this climate, the Republicans are not like psyched about supporting any woman.
Do you think though that I understand that she thinks that she has a future in the Republican Party, and then maybe she she thinks that she has to maintain her bona fides with the establishment of the Republican Party, and then could somehow tack more MAGA in the future. But the fact is, it feels like there's a delusion that the old Republican Party is going to come back.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to, I guess, maybe just like the Koch network, wants to maintain enough influence in the existing Republican Party to, cut taxes and to get rid of regulation. But that's it. I mean, here's an interesting thing. We played this during the debate, but I'd like to play it now because the first thing that happened, and I had seen this clip just before the debate, and Ron DeSantis brought it up. And now that I think about it, I had seen this debate from that guy, Bill Mitchell. Do you remember him?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Bill Mitchell he was a huge Trump fanatic.
Yeah.
And now he's a huge Ron DeSantis fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
And
free agent fanatic sort of thing.
Exactly. And he played this clip earlier in the day, which leads me to now it just occurs to me, of course he did, because the DeSantis people knew that DeSantis was going to open with this and he wanted it out there. But this is what DeSantis hit Nikki Haley with at the beginning of the debate. And then, of course, she backed off it and claimed that she didn't do it and that she really did hate trans and gay people, essentially. But here is this clip.
Madam Ambassador, another question is what care should be on the table when a 12-year-old child in this country assigned female at birth says, actually, I feel more comfortable living as a boy. What should the law allow the response to be?
Well, I think the law should stay out of it, and I think parents should handle it.
Madam.
And the bill,
simple.
what was,
Yeah.
The Bill Mitchell caption wasn't there, but it was like basically being critical of her, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Digging the hole deeper every day.
I think he said this is disqualifying
Right.
for a Republican candidate. And it probably is.
No, it is. Yeah.
But I think like the Koch brothers don't care so much about the culture wars unless they need to. And she virtually backed off of that whole thing during the debate. But it was interesting how damaging the idea of like the Koch brother libertarian don't have the government involved.
Yeah, no, I know. And that's actually, I think even just rhetorically, libertarianism has never been deader in the GOP than it is right now. Like even rhetorically, I think it was always the embrace of libertarianism was always cynical and complete BS, considering that their support for the police state and endless war. But even there's no more. You're not even allowed to rhetorically nod to it anymore. It's just there's no interest.
Well, what's your view then of their kind of the House Republicans and some in the Senate now, their reticence to send more aid to Ukraine? That's a little bit more like isolationist at the very least.
Yeah, and I think that's right, because I think again part of whatever on the right now there's an embrace of internationalism in the sense of the international far right. Like that's quite popular to embrace that. But I think that the Trump-esque pseudo isolationist tone, which a lot of Republicans are still getting used to, but I do think that's what we're seeing basically in that kind of positioning.
But do you think that you can even like call it an ideological sort of, I guess, component, or like I don't even think you can pull that far out from it. It just so happens that like somebody said, don't send to Ukraine.
Yeah.
That pulled a decent amount in certain Republican circles.
Yeah.
I mean, because none of them are saying deny Israel aid.
Right.
And so there's no, Like the idea
Yeah.
that this is like isolationist or even anti-war or it just simply seems to be this random thing. It could have been anything else, and it happened to be this, and this stuck, and that's it. And
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, I think it's pretty nakedly just like partisan in that like Joe Biden wants this, so we don't. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. But I think that it's there is no coherent ideology to it beyond that sort of cynical performance you're talking about. And certainly like the isolationism, even that is about as fake as a libertarianism was, because as you say, like they're not going to oppose sending tons of money to Israel and things like that. Like that's still like not on the table for something Republicans are going to come out against.
You mentioned like the demise of the libertarian perspective in the party, and I have to say, like, I don't know that I've ever been doing this for as long as I and gone a longer period of time not hearing from a libertarian caller. It has been
that's funny. Yeah,
it has been heartbreaking for me, but it is the case. It's been very sad. They don't seem to be around that much at all anymore. But it's interesting that all of the most, I guess, vibrant libertarians have been, former leftists, at least in sort of the media space that we've had. And one of the people that they championed was, J.D. Vance from Ohio, who was supposedly this new breed of Republican. I mean, who cared about the working guy? Of course, he was a former Wall Streeter.
Right.
And also a libertarian who was going to come out in defense of libertarian policies. This is a guy who was talking about the train safety until he actually had to vote for it. And now apparently, and there seems to be this big push from the right. J.D. Vance has come out and called on Merrick Garland to investigate Robert Kagan for a piece that he wrote. I think it was in the Washington Post.
Yeah.
Talking about dictatorship. I mean, this is stunning.
Right.
Here's the letter. I wish to address your attention to a recent opinion piece published in the pages of a widely circulated American newspaper based on my review of public charging documents that the Department of Justice filed in courts of law. Let me just get this out here. Put it a little bit bigger on my screen. I suspect that one or both of you might characterize this article as an invitation to insurrection, a manifestation of criminal conspiracy, or an attempt to bring about a civil war. He's basically saying that he's writing. I mean, this is what's so bizarre about this. He's simply writing about what could happen if Donald Trump became dictatorial. And it's all hypothetical. Now, I know J.D. Vance is just doing this as for show, but it really is sort of stunning.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. It's I think the total unseriousness of it is like, I mean, for someone that we were sold as being a thoughtful new kind of Republican, like this is just really stupid, cheap, unserious kind of stunt stuff. And I guess like troubling in the sense that like however serious it is about like actually asking anyone to be investigated for this, it just displays so much contempt for anyone that it's like marketed to appeal to right? Like it doesn't make any sense logically. It's just supposed to be some cheap like attempt to score points against the justice against prosecutions of the people who actually like did storm the Capitol and equating like writing an op-ed with that. I don't know. It's just like really, really silly in this way that is, I don't know, profoundly depressing.
And we should say that, like, this is coming on the heels of Mike Johnson releasing all this footage from January 6th and them replaying one situation where one cop refused, or two cops refused, to fight off hundreds of club wielding, essentially, Capitol stormers. And they're saying this is evidence that it was all an inside job or something to that effect.
Right.
But play this. This is a clip from the Steve Bannon show. What is the number on this? It is number 10. He is Kash Patel is on. He was a Trump aide. He apparently is going to be named the national security, one of the national security officials in the coming Trump administration. And he's formerly from the Defense Department. Here is Kash Patel on the Steve Bannon show explaining what the intention of the next Trump administration is.
Highly confident that when you go back and is a senior member of this administration, President Trump's administration, starting in the afternoon of the 20th of January of 2025, do you feel confident that you will be able to deliver the goods, that we can have serious prosecutions and accountability? And I want the Morning Joe producers that watch us and all the producers that watch us, this is just not rhetoric. We're absolutely dead serious. We're not. You cannot have a constitutional republic and allow what these deep staters have done to the country. The deep state, the administrative state, the fourth branch of government never mentioned in the Constitution, is going to be taken apart brick by brick. And the people that did these evil deeds will be held accountable and prosecuted, criminal prosecutions. Kash, I know you're probably going to be head of the CIA. But do you believe that you can deliver the goods on this in a pretty short order the first couple of months so we can get rolling on prosecutions?
Yes, we got the bench for it, Bannon, and you know those guys. I'm not going to go out there and say their names right now so the radical left-wing media can terrorize them. But, excuse me, the one thing we learned in the Trump administration the first go-around is we got to put in all-America patriots top to bottom. And we got them for law enforcement. We got them for intel collection. We got them for offensive operations. We got them for DOD, CIA, everywhere. And the one thing we will do that they never will do is we will follow the facts and the law and go to courts of law and correct these justices and lawyers who have been prosecuting these cases based on politics and actually issuing them as lawfare. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're dictators.
Fair enough.
He really expanded that portfolio too,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, Bannon's like, we're going to, this is not rhetoric. We're going to take out the administrative state. And then Patel is just like went on to basically any critic.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, why stop there? I mean, it's funny because it's the kind of thing that's just like, it's classic right-wing talk radio rhetoric, right? Like to some extent, it's the kind of thing you would hear in right-wing talk radio going back to the 1990s. But what is different is that, like you said, and it's actually 100% serious, that this person is likely to be in a position of power in a future Trump administration.
and they both were in positions of power in the last Trump administration.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so to some extent, we are used to people like that in the right telling, because they have so much contempt for their audience. So we're used to them telling them what they want to hear. Give us power and we will punish your enemies. That's what we'll do. Give us power and your enemies will suffer. We will punish them, the people who are hurting America. And everyone sort of agrees that that they're just like pandering. But I think what has taken a lot of adjustment, especially for the sort of elite media, to grasp that like the people, like those people actually mean it now, and those people actually mean it, and they're actually going to try to do it. It's not just a thing said to win elections anymore. It's actually a statement of intent.
Well, what's your sense of like, based on some of what I've heard from Trump, from Bannon, and that whole, what is it, 2025 project that they call it, of the pre-approved kind of people that are going to come in and dismantle the administrative state. It seems to me that the lesson that Trump and his orbit took from last time around is like, oh no, we're like not going to mess around this time. We're not going to have those wet blankets say that we can't invoke the Insurrection Act to go into cities to quell protesters. We're not going to listen to these calls for continuity in certain administrative positions, regardless of, what had been done before. Like that's what seems like to me the major lesson the Trump loyalists took. And that is one of the more scary things that we're looking at when we're looking down the barrel of a potential Trump presidency.
I think that's exactly right, because I think the lesson that some of these people got from the first Trump presidency was that the people who sort of glommed onto him to like get back into the White House, like, were not all on their side, and we saw by the end of his term that they were starting to get serious about this administrative state stuff. Like they were actually unveiling plans then to do what they're now promising to do. It took them a long time to get organized enough to do it.
Getting rid of the civil service.
To get rid of this.
Essentially the civil service code and open up about 40,000 jobs to political appointees.
To make them political appointees instead. And so I think like the people who want to sort of use Trump as a means to get power are going to be more systematic about it this time and let fewer of those sort of milquetoast Republicans along for the ride.
It's a terrifying prospect in many respects, and also like exacerbated by the fact that the candidate that is going to face Trump, I think we can be fairly confident, again with my force majeure caveat on the matchup, is going to be Joe Biden. And it feels like that Biden is not terribly well positioned right now to face Donald Trump. I mean, you're going to have at least 2 or 3 other candidates on the ballot who are going to appeal to, significantly to the left of, or depending on who the candidate is, to the left of Biden. I'm thinking like Cornel West and Jill Stein. And you have Robert F. Kennedy, who I don't know that I would characterize him to the left of Biden on a lot of things. But, it does have the Kennedy name. So the margins, and we're already talking about an election that in terms of the electoral vote is going to be so marginally close. And there's a lot of people who are saying, based upon Biden's, what he's done in terms of like this assault on Gaza, that they can't bring themselves to vote for the guy. Certainly there are many in the Muslim community who are like, this is, an outrage. What do we do?
That's a great question. I know. I have no, I don't know. I don't know. Look, there's honestly still a lot of time before this election is going to happen, and a lot can and will change. But I mean, if I was, I think the last thing I would do if I was an ally of Joe Biden is just sort of preemptively prepare the list of people you're going to get mad at and blame if this goes wrong. and I have a feeling some of that's already happening. But yeah.
and I mean, it's and they're preemptively blaming them in many respects. I mean, it's not like a surprise mystery that maybe people would see these images taking place in Israel and Gaza, and and it's also not completely. I mean, it's not hard to imagine a Democratic president or really any U.S. president saying to Israel, like, you need to have a ceasefire. Like, this isn't like,
no, I know.
This is not, this doesn't feel like it's, a big ask of an administration. I mean, there is if this was a political calculation, they made a very horrible one. And if it's an ideological calculation, it's sick and twisted.
I completely agree. Yeah. And I think, I think that, the political calculation as usual here, I think is that, like, it will be the responsibility of certain people to hold their nose and vote for Biden. And it's always their responsibility to hold their nose and support the Democrat no matter what. And what that sort of fails to account for is like what they're actually doing to actually make people want to like pull the lever for them. And,
right.
and what they're doing to make it a much harder than it has to be. And I think they actually need to consider that seriously instead of as we just said, preemptively getting mad at people about it.
Let's just touch on before you go what's going on in the House.
Yeah,
sort of fascinating. Mike Johnson is doing exactly what Kevin McCarthy did. Apparently, I mean, if the reporting is correct, his plans are more or less to do what McCarthy tried to do, but it got him ousted out of leadership. And there seems to be brewing some dissent, and we'll see. I don't, Matt Gaetz, it feels like I don't know, is Matt Gaetz, like, he seems to have like taken an extended vacation. He's done. He did what he wanted to do, and now he's gone. There doesn't seem to be really any implications to what he did other than Kevin McCarthy is going to be a lobbyist quicker than he would have otherwise been. George Santos is gone as of this week. Dave Joyce may leave. Matt Rosendale, it looks like, will leave the House if he has to run against John Tester in Montana. And Rosendale, we should say, is one of the people who ousted Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
So that's sort of fun. And it also, it appears that there's an attempt in Montana to put abortion access on the ballot, which will help Tester. He beat Rosendale once before.
Yeah.
Are we just going to see a repeat? I mean, like the House fascinates me now because they did this whole thing, and it doesn't seem to. I'm not quite clear what they got, other than maybe a delay on the Ukraine funding and a delay on. Well, I don't think the Israel funding was up and was part of it yet, but I guess a delay on the Ukraine funding. It appears.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, I think, well, first of all, I think it's difficult to it would be difficult to get anyone involved in this to coherently explain like what they thought the eventual positive outcome would be. So sure, like, it's hard to say what they won out of this, but I think they can notch it as a victory in the sense that you say, like, delaying or possibly sinking the Ukraine aid and just sort of preventing other things from getting done in general, but yeah, I mean, at the end of this, who the hell knows what that was for?
I love seeing Marjorie Taylor Greene upset about this stuff.
No, I know.
Because it does feel like they're going to go through with the process, and but I mean, I guess if the idea was to get a religious zealot in there, they've done that, and who knows what happens in the future. He's third from power in the country.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, Alex, Pareene, we will undoubtedly have more information, I guess, come January.
Sure.
But if we don't see you, Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you as well.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
It just occurred to me, we got to start saying that to guests.
Happy holidays. Yeah.
Happy holidays.
That's right.
All right. Well, we'll see you in 2024. Alex Pareene. Folks, check out the Politics of Everything podcast, which Alex co-hosts. Thanks so much for joining us, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.